Many years ago, in a small farming village called Kolimba, life revolved around the land. The people of Kolimba were hardworking and proud. Men quietly competed to see who could cultivate the largest fields and grow the highest quality crops. Because of their skill and dedication, Kolimba was known far beyond its borders. But there was one man in Kolimba who stood out, not for his farming, but for something very different. His name was Deko, and he was famous throughout the village as a gambler. Deko could gamble with anything and everything. If someone dared him to bet on something, he would accept without hesitation. Villagers admired his boldness but feared him at the same time. They knew Deko's gambling had no limits. If he chose to gamble with his family property, or even his own child, no one could stop him. Deko did not believe in hard work. To him, money came only from luck and chance, not from planting crops or building wealth slowly. While other men in Kolimba spent years tending their land to secure a stable life, Deko relied on his luck and cunning. At first, that luck seemed to favor him. His early wins made him confident and reckless. People began to whisper about him. Some secretly admired him and wanted to learn his secret. Others avoided him, afraid his risky bets might one day involve them. One of Deko's greatest possessions was his wife, Nia. But Nia had not married him out of love. Her father had once lost a bet to Deko, and as payment, he gave Nia to him in marriage. It was humiliating and deeply unfair. Nia never forgot it. From the very first day, she found Deko lazy and irresponsible. He spent his days and nights gambling, wandering from village to village in search of new games of chance instead of working to support his family. Nia, as a young girl, had dreamed of a different life, to marry a kind, hard-working, prosperous man who would treat her with respect. She imagined a home filled with stability and comfort. But her father's reckless gambling had shattered that dream. Instead of a responsible husband, she ended up with Deko, a man obsessed with risk and fortune. The first years of their marriage were hard. Deko's gambling brought small wins that disappeared in bigger games. His debts piled high, and village moneylenders often came looking for him. Nia, though deeply frustrated, worked tirelessly to keep the household going. She fed the family, cared for their son, and prepared for the arrival of a second child. She struggled to hold on to hope, but the constant losses and Deko's carelessness weighed heavily on her. Nia was strong. She knew she could not change her husband's nature, so she focused on what she could control, her children and their future. She picked up small jobs, cooked carefully, saved every coin she could, and made sure her son was clothed and growing in a decent environment. Even though Deko seemed uninterested in their struggles, Nia refused to give up. She believed that hard work and careful planning could someday bring stability. Every night when Deko returned late from gambling, often with nothing to show, Nia sat quietly, thinking of ways to improve their situation. She knew the village respected those who worked hard, and she didn't want her children to grow up in the shadow of failure and poverty. Life in Kolimba went on. Seasons changed, farms flourished, and Nia kept bearing the burden of the home and the weight of her hopes. She knew life had dealt her an unfair hand, but deep inside, she believed that one day she would find a way to change their circumstances, not through gambling, but through determination. The desperate journey. Eventually, Nia reached a breaking point. The stress of poverty and debt became too heavy. Every day, she worried about her children's future. She saw the sadness and strain on her son's face, and the thought of bringing another child into such hardship filled her with sorrow. She knew she had to do something drastic. For weeks, she heard whispered stories about a witch doctor who lived in a village called Zoronu, 2 days' journey from Kolimba. People said he had the power to grant wishes, but always at a price. Many were afraid to approach him. Nia's desperation was greater than her fear. She carefully planned her journey so no one would suspect her true intentions. When she told Deko she was going to visit her grandmother, he didn't question her. Her close friend, Mary, also believed the story. That gave Nia the freedom she needed to make the dangerous journey alone. The path to Zorano was difficult. Nia walked through thick forests and crossed narrow streams, carrying only a small bag of food and essentials. Her heart pounded as she imagined what she was about to do. She pictured what life could be like if her family became rich: no more debts, no more sleepless nights, no more humiliation from lenders. But along with hope came fear. When she finally reached the witch doctor's hut, she found a small, dark house surrounded by strange herbs and animal bones. The air smelled sharp and unfamiliar, sending a chill down her spine. From the shadows stepped an old man with piercing eyes. His gaze seemed to look right through her, as if he could read her heart. "What brings you here, child?" he asked in a deep, chilling voice. I want my family to be rich," Nia stammered, hands trembling. She had practiced her words while walking, but saying them out loud made everything painfully real. The witch doctor studied her in silence, then said slowly, "Wealth comes at a price. You must choose carefully, for the path you take will change your life forever." He then laid out 3 choices. 1. She could sacrifice one of her children. 2. She could allow him to use her husband's manhood in the ritual. 3. She could bring a young virgin to him immediately. Nia's heart sank. Each option was cruel and unbearable. She could not imagine harming her children. She could not imagine dragging some innocent girl into such horror. The only remaining option, her husband's manhood, shocked her, but seemed the lesser evil. She closed her eyes and thought of her children's future, their comfort, safety, and opportunities. Everything she ever wanted for them seemed to hang on this terrible decision. Slowly, Nia chose. For the sake of her children, she selected her husband's manhood. The witch doctor's eyes glinted with understanding. "Very well," he said. "Your husband will become rich beyond measure. But he will never again be able to satisfy you as a woman. And you must never tell him the secret of his wealth. If you do, there will be consequences you cannot bear." Sudden wealth and rising pride. Exactly 1 month after Nia's visit to the witch doctor, her life began to change in ways she had never imagined. One morning, Deko came back from his usual gambling trip with more money than he had ever held in his life. At first, Nia thought it was just a lucky day. But as days passed, his fortune continued to grow, steadily and rapidly. Debts that had once seemed impossible to repay vanished in a matter of days. Money owed to neighbors, friends, and lenders was paid back. Soon, they moved out of their small house into a bigger one, with several rooms, brightly painted walls, and strong, new furniture. Nia could hardly believe it. For the first time, the heavy stone of worry lifted from her shoulders. The change didn't go unnoticed. Whispers spread across Kolimba. How did Deko get all this money? Everyone remembered him as the man who had always been in debt, always gambling, never stable. Now he bought fine clothes, lavish food, and other expensive goods. Some villagers thought he had found hidden treasure. Others said it was just his luck again. No one knew the truth, and that mystery only added to Deko's fame. Nia felt a strange mix of relief and pride. She had sacrificed something deeply personal for this wealth, and now she saw its effect. Her children were no longer hungry. They wore good clothes, ate well, and even had toys. Seeing joy in their eyes made her heart swell. She convinced herself that every painful decision had been worth it. But not everything was bright. As Nia and her family rose in status, her relationships began to change. Her old friend Mary, who had stood by her during hard times, started to feel a gap growing between them. One day, caught up in her new life, Nia spoke harshly. "I have denounced everything that has to do with poverty, and that includes you." Mary was stunned. She never imagined Nia would push her away after all they had endured together. But Nia was too swept up in her new lifestyle to notice the hurt she caused. She focused solely on her family's comfort and the appearance of wealth. She believed that staying close to poor people might drag her back into suffering. The new house was always busy. People came to visit, to seek favors, to gossip, to find out Deko's secret. Nia grew selective with her friendships, keeping near only those who matched her new status. Despite everything, she felt content. Her children's future finally looked secure. The world seemed like a shield against her past struggles. Yet, buried beneath the gold and comfort, the consequences of her bargain were slowly preparing to surface. The curse reveals itself. At first, Nia tried to forget the witch doctor's warning. She focused on enjoying this new life. But the price of her choice could not stay hidden forever. One evening, Deko approached her with desire, trying to restore the intimacy that once existed between them. But no matter how he tried, he could not satisfy her. Eventually, driven by curiosity and desire, Deko looked elsewhere. It began with quiet conversations and secret meetings. Soon, it escalated. To his surprise and relief, he discovered he could perform perfectly with other women. The problem existed only with Nia. This confused him, but also relieved him. His masculinity, he thought, was intact. He decided it was just some strange issue between him and Nia, and he continued his affairs. Nia, unaware at first of his betrayals, kept living in comfort, telling herself that wealth was enough to protect her family. But deep down, unease grew. She noticed small changes: Deko coming home later, giving vague explanations, behaving distant. She dismissed them at first, telling herself it was just the stress of managing wealth. Yet, the witch doctor's curse had already taken root in the one part of life money could not fix: intimacy, trust, and the sacred bond of marriage. Betrayal and bitter truth. Months passed. The distance between Nia and Deko grew. One afternoon, a visiting friend mentioned seeing Deko with another woman in another village. At first, Nia refused to believe it. "No, that can't be true," she whispered. But doubt had entered her heart. She began quietly watching Deko. She noticed his secret outings, his odd excuses, his late returns. Piece by piece, the truth formed. Deko, who could no longer be intimate with her, was freely enjoying intimacy with other women, completely unaware of the sacrifice she had made. The betrayal cut deeply. "I gave everything for him," she cried in private. "I sacrificed my own happiness so he could be rich. And now he shares that pleasure with other women." Her hands shook as she tried to steady herself. The weight of her decision crushed her. She had acted out of love and desperation, wanting a better future for her children. But now she saw she had trapped herself in a painful, inescapable situation. Unable to bear it, Nia decided to return to Zoronu and confront the witch doctor. She retraced her steps through the forest and streams, heart pounding with dread and hope. She needed answers. When she arrived, the witch doctor seemed unsurprised to see her. She bowed her head, tears in her eyes. "I need to know the truth," she said, voice shaking. "Why can he be with other women but never with me?" The witch doctor replied calmly. "You made your choice with clear mind. You asked for your husband's manhood to be used in the ritual so your family could gain wealth. That choice had a price. He will never be able to perform with you again. But with other women, his ability remains. This is the consequence of your sacrifice. It cannot be undone." The world seemed to stop around Nia. She had gained prosperity for her children, but had unknowingly condemned herself to permanent isolation from her husband's love and intimacy. The wealth that had seemed like a blessing now felt like a cruel chain. She walked back to Kolimba with a heavy heart. She carried a secret she could never tell Deko, and a sorrow no one else could understand. The second wife. Life went on, but Nia's heart was never the same. She tried to live with the pain, focusing on her children and their future. Yet life found new ways to test her. One morning, As Nia was tidying their big house, she noticed an unfamiliar woman moving around comfortably, giving orders, speaking and acting as though she belonged there. Confusion turned to horror. Deko had brought another woman into the home. She was his second wife. Nia's heart pounded. She confronted Deko. "How dare you bring another woman into our house?" she demanded. "Can't you see what I sacrificed for this family? Do you not understand the cost I paid for your wealth?" Deko looked at her calmly, almost bored. "I am a traditional man," he said casually. "It is my right to marry as many wives as I wish. You should accept it." Those words burned in Nia's soul. The sacrifices she had made, the secrets she carried, were nothing to him. His wealth shielded him from consequences, and now he used that power to indulge himself further. The second wife quickly made her presence felt. She mocked Nia, made snide remarks, and subtly undermined Nia's authority in the household. She laughed loudly with Deko, sometimes at Nia's expense, and often stirred up tension between them. Nia tried to hold her dignity, but every day was a battle. Her wealth had allowed Deko to become more reckless, not more responsible. Her sacrifice had given him freedom and power, while she remained trapped by the curse and the secret. She focused on her children. She kept her distance from the second wife, avoiding direct conflict but watching carefully. The house that once symbolized hope had become a prison of humiliation and pain. In the quiet moments of the night, Nia reflected on how everything had unfolded. She had wanted a better life for her family, and in many ways, she had achieved it. Her children were comfortable, well-fed, and secure. But she, personally, was paying the full price of the blessing turned curse. Living to reclaim her life. As time passed, Nia realized something important: no amount of wealth could replace her peace of mind, dignity, or self-respect. The constant presence of the second wife, the coldness of Deko, and the weight of the curse became unbearable. The house, once a dream, now felt like a cage. After many sleepless nights, Nia made a firm decision. She would not stay in a home where her sacrifices were ignored, her dignity trampled, and her happiness denied. She decided to leave Deko, take her children, and start over. Quietly, she began to prepare. She packed what she needed without drawing attention. Every small bundle she tied was a step toward reclaiming her freedom. On the chosen day, Nia woke early. She gathered her children and their few belongings. With calm determination, she walked out of Deko's house, leaving behind the walls that had witnessed both her hope and her sorrow. She did not look back. Deko, at first, barely reacted. Perhaps he believed she would return. Perhaps he was too absorbed in his pleasure and wealth to care. But soon, the consequences of her absence began to show. Without Nia's steady presence, patience, and quiet wisdom, the household began to crumble. Deko's old gambling habit, which had been softened by the security Nia created, returned in full force. He placed bigger bets, took greater risks, and ignored the counsel of others. Slowly but surely, the wealth that had seemed so permanent melted away. Debts returned like old enemies. His grand lifestyle began to collapse. What had come quickly now left just as quickly. A new beginning. Meanwhile, Nia and her children started a new chapter in a modest place far from Deko's house. Free from the shadow of his indulgence and from the daily humiliation, Nia focused on rebuilding her life honestly. She drew strength from the lessons of her past. Patience, careful planning, hard work, and integrity. Every day was a small step forward. Every honest coin earned meant more to her than all the cursed wealth she had known before. Her children flourished under her care. They watched their mother work, save, and live with humility and strength. They grew into responsible and thoughtful individuals. Over time, they came to understand the sacrifices she had made. Nia, too, found a deeper sense of fulfillment, not in riches, but in freedom and peace. She no longer lived under a curse imposed by desperation. She had chosen a new path, one built on effort, honesty, and faith. Deco, on the other hand, continued to spiral. With his wealth gone and his habits unchanged, he sank deeper into the cycle of gambling and loss. The riches he once enjoyed vanished completely, leaving behind only regret and the memories of opportunities wasted. Moral of the story. Nia's story is a powerful reminder. True wealth is not just measured in money, but in peace of mind, dignity, love, and integrity. She tried to shortcut her way to prosperity by turning to forbidden power and playing fate, and though she gained riches for a time, the hidden cost was severe: her marriage, her joy, and her sense of self. Thanks for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe to my YouTube channel for more African stories. See you in my next story.